Alright, hey everybody, it's your boy Mont Mancini. What I'm gonna try to do here is try to explain what the expectations are coming into the post game, especially transitioning from extra mode into the Gilgamesh and Lufenia difficulty, where a lot of new players are gonna have issues because the game expects you to be playing within a build or a solid build concept in order to advance. Now, when I say build concept, people wonder, what do you mean by that? Well, by build concept, I mean having a play style, a job, and then, you know, all of your stats on your gear, your affinities, your master points, they all complement each other and they all work towards enhancing that play style and making it effective. So typically, I think the max at Gilgamesh difficulty for job level is 200. That is probably the number one thing you want to focus on at first is getting your job level up as high as you can. If you can get it to 250, I think it's possible. I'm not sure because I've been playing, at the DLC, so it's a little different. I'm not sure how it goes progression wise, but having access to master points is essentially having access to power because there's three components to your build. Of course, it's your mastery points. How you distribute them is going to determine how your character functions, where their strengths lie. And then for mastery points, we come down to gear. Now, when you're going through the base game, you typically just hit optimize and go for the highest level gear and you keep it rolling. And once you hit the end game and you do that, then you wonder, well, I've been optimizing, I'm at the level that the same gear level as what I'm fighting, but I'm getting my teeth kicked in. Why am I getting my teeth kicked in? You're getting your teeth kicked in because you don't have a build. You're not playing within the concept, your gear doesn't have synergy, and you're not investing in your stats. So basically, the key to this game really is about investment. That's what they want you to do. And it's not bad because when you invest in things, there's an immediate payoff. So that's what the whole, grinding to make a build thing comes down to. So, for example, I'm rolling with a Dark Knight here. I'm using a great sword, and then I'll break down this whole build. My sub is a machinist. Now, once you get to Gilgamesh, there's another aspect to build making that gets introduced, which is summon blessings gear. Um, I'll try to link in the comments the spreadsheet, but basically there's a spreadsheet that shows how each individual blessing affects your stats for each job differently. So for right now, for Dark Knight, I'm using Odin. Typically, Odin gives the most strength out of all the blessings. Ramu will give the most intellect. Fenrir will give the most agility. Phoenix will give the most spirit. Alexander will give the most stamina. And a Titan gives the most HP. So depending on the job you're playing, that's going to determine which blessing you want your gear mostly to be because they all affect your stat growth differently. So for Dark Knight, I'm stacking Odin. You see I have 5,267%. Now I think what Odin grants to Dark Knight is like 7 points of strength, 1 point of agility, 2 points of stamina, like 3 points of intellect, something like that. 2 or 3 points of intellect per 100%. So as you can see, once you get higher summon blessings gear, you see each of my pieces have over 900%. So that means each piece is giving me, roughly uh, an extra, what would that be? 70 or so strength, almost. Now, you don't have to actually hit the 100% to get stats. You'll get stats going up to that, but that's what it's documented as per on the spreadsheet per 100%. Now, so the gear component. Now, if you look at my sword here, now look at all 5 of my stats. I have damage dealt, great sword, combo ability 8, damage dealt, soul eater, HP, strength, and imbue lightning. Now, the reason why I have all this, right? Now I go over to the other gear, and you see strength, intellect, status element resistance, near death damage. See all my top pieces: damage dealt, soul eater, damage dealt, great sword, combo ability. That's my job actions. Now look, when you go to your special effects, go down to the bottom, and then you see how it's damage dealt, soul eater plus 236%. So whatever damage I'm doing on soul eater, it's getting boosted by 236%. Damage dealt, and the same thing for my great sword, and I also have 1 piece of MP cost reduction, apparently. Let me find that piece. See, I have MP cost reduction, and then also all my gear is following the theme. Strength, HP for Dark Knight, because Soul Eater's damage is based off of your max HP and your intellect. So you also want to get those as high as possible. The only reason why I don't have HP on all these pieces is because this is a farm build. So I'm usually running it at max trials, so it's minus 50% HP. So instead of investing in a ton of HP and not getting it, I just invested, through my master points and my blessing, and then I just swapped it for near death damage dealt, and then status ailment resistance. Because like I said, I play on max trials, so I don't want to get every with the +5, the status ailment on attack +5, and the status ailment duration +5. Having 100% status ailment resistance allows for me not to get hit with any status ailment effects. And you get 18% innately from your Ultima or evocation drive. So in order to achieve 100, you have to find a way to get the other 82%. And I'm able to do that here through having 2 status ailment resistance 10s that grant 41.8%. But like I say, you notice the theme. Damage dealt, great sword combo ability, damage dealt, soul eater, strength, near death damage dealt, intellect. You notice a theme. Then we go over to my mastery points. You see HP, strength, intellect. Once you unlock the 800% affinities, the more you go over that 800%, you get more stats for every, I think it's like 40, between 60 and 70%, 75%, you get about the equivalent stats that you would get from Bahamut's Blessing. And I have here critical damage dealt. I just put this here because for this build, I'm only using the 1 combo link, and that's always going to crit. So I boosted that, and then you see boosting the near death damage dealt. I go down. Now, being that I'm using Samurai 600%, typically you want to invest in parry MP recovery. So like if you're a new player coming into the end game, you want to invest in MP recovery because you want to be able to sustain your attacks and sustain your build. The reason why I'm good just spec it into crit MP recovery is because I hit so hard. So because I hit so hard, I have crit MP recovery, and my crits are hitting for between 500 and 500k and 1 million. I'm gonna get back a whole lot of MP, so I don't really have to invest in this parry MP recovery. But until you get that kind of strength where you can land 1 attack and refund all your MP, you want to spec into that if you're using the SAM 600% affinity. But basically just explaining this theme of keeping all your stats all in line, and they all have to have synergy with each other. And this is for my main job, my DPS. Now I'll explain the build itself. So being that I'm a Dark Knight, we already explained your main source of damage is going to be weapon combos. Weapon combos do physical and magic damage depending on the combo. So as a Dark Knight, I know from looking at the spreadsheet that it gets a lot of strength. So you want to invest in affinities that's going to boost your physical damage. And then also, I have my intellect and I want HP. So on this build, I have my own Dark Knight affinity, which is boosting my stats. And I'm also getting the most important part is this 400%, which allows near death effects to be active all the time. And this also allows you to spec into near death damage dealt and near death damage taken if you choose, because you know you'll have those effects active all the time. Then the next piece I have is Samurai 600%. When a combo ability effect is triggered, effects that trigger on a successful parry are also activated. Also enhances the effects of Yojimbo's Wisdom. Yojimbo's Wisdom is just the stats you get from here, so you double up. When you hit the 600 and 800% affinities, you get all the stats you get from the previous ones combined. So then you look at Samurai 400%. A successful parry will cause the next ability to critically hit. So what this means is every time I do a combo that has a combo ability effect, you see these diamonds here? Those are combo ability effects. See the first one, R1 and 2, R1, R2 increases physical damage dealt. R1, R1, R2 greatly reduces enemies' max break gauge on impact. And this one restores HP based on physical damage dealt. So when I do these combos, Spin and Slash, Aura's Edge, or Rise and Eaton, because of the Samurai 600%, I will also get parry effects triggered. Parry effects such as, so if I spec into parry MP recovery, every time I do one of those combos, I'll recover MP, and I'll show you what it looks like real quick. What is this? Oh, sorry. I don't know what this is. Damn, Sophie just took so-and-so out. I'm sorry. I didn't know what that was. Sophie just took her out. Whatever. Okay. Hold on, let me switch from dimension breaker.
Time for a change.
So where's come here, Goblin? So this is the Samurai 600. You see the little. Now watch. You see how my MP is still going up? That's the parry MP recovery. I'll show you again. I say I go this. The two buffs next to haste that's going down. That's my parry MP recovery. So that's part of what Sam 600 does. It also guarantees a crit on those combos. So which allows you to spec into crit MP recovery as well, or crit HP recovery if necessary. You can also spec into parry HP recovery. It has the same effect as it will fill your HP bar every time you do a combo that's connected to a combo link. That's why Samurai 600 is probably one of the better, is one of the best affinities to have for endgame combo builds because that gives you sustainability. You can keep on attacking and keep on doing your hardest hitting moves in order to get clears faster. Now, the next component to my build would be this Breaker 600. Now, the Soul Burst bonus, not too important for DPS, but as you can see, the main stat that the Breaker affinity gives is strength. Breaker has the most strength in the game. This one, 250, grant applies an additional strength bonus to all abilities that grant stat bonuses. The 250 Breaker, Black Mage, White Mage, Knight, Thief, and Assassin all do the same thing for their respective stats. And a brief explanation of what that is see this attack here. Let's take this one. Aura's Edge grants a anytime it says element, that means it has magical damage attached to it. So its damage is boosted off of intellect as well. As it says, stat bonus strength and intellect. So with Breaker 250, I get an additional modifier for any attack I do. I get an additional strength modifier. So meaning I do more damage based on the amount of strength I have. So yeah, that Shadow Breaker increases damage dealt after soul burst, while its effect further increases the damage bonus. Stacks up to 5 times, so you basically get a damage buff every time you soul burst the enemy up to 5 times. I think it goes up to about 15% or so. And then the 600, a successful soul shield increases your strength. This effect can stack up to 20 times. Also, it increases barbarian's wisdom. So you get the strength, all the strength from the breaker tree, and then the important part, the successful soul shield increases your strength. So what does that mean? That means every time I soul shield or achieve a soul shield effect, I'll get a stacking bonus, a stacking strength bonus. I did it again. That goes up to previous to be DLC, it was 30, believed to be 30. I don't know if it adds up to the same thing now. It might be more, it might be percentage based, I'm not sure. But it is a noticeable difference between having no stacks and having 20 stacks. Now, you're just going to say, well, Mock, how do you get 20 stacks in a fight? Well, simple. This is part of the build concept. If you look on my other job, the machinist, one of his affinities is cyclic 600%. And what does that do? Effects that activate on a successful soul shield will also activate on Lightbringer. Meaning every time I activate Lightbringer on my sub, it will act as if I just did a soul shield. That's part of the reason why when you see my videos, other people's videos, or you play multiplayer, and then you see players able to infinitely Lightbringer, because that's how part of their sub jobs build is strictly dedicated to resource management and being able to activate these Lightbringers for free and to improve the buffs and drops that you get. You see, all I have is luck, Lightbringer duration, buff duration. Improved effect analyze, that's the job buff I'm using for Hunter. And improved effect barrage, that's one of the command abilities that I'm using for damage. And so everything is working towards this end. And see, I have them with carbuncle for luck. But if you're new, you want to have at least one piece of Leviathan. The reason why I don't have one piece of Leviathan is because I have the Leviathan primary blessings ring. And you have to get past floor 100 for them to start dropping from Gilgamesh Rifts. And they're extremely rare, but the higher you go, the more likely you'll get one from completing the Gilgamesh Rift. And they only come in Chaos level 10. So you have to make sure you have the 2500% on one of these. And you can only get 2500% on one. That's why also you see on both my jobs, mostly all my effects are Ultima. So I could take advantage of the perpetual blessings here. And then on my sub, you see all my effects are evocation to take advantage of the perpetual blessing here. Now this is super end game stuff. You don't have to worry about that for right now. Like I said, just have the one Leviathan blessing and you should be straight. But like I said, all these are working into in concert in order to grant me those effects a lot easier. And then also I have the Bahamut's primary blessing, which does the same thing. It grants a stacking stat buff for all stats every time you do a soul shield. So my Bahamut's blessing will trigger my breaker 600 on my DPS because the counter stays and it's effective, it's active anywhere the conditions are met. So if I have Bahamut blessing on my sub, and then I have Breaker 600, Black Mage 600, Assassin 600, and Bahamut Blessing on my DPS. Every time I do a Lightbringer on my sub job, it will build, the stacks will carry over to my DPS. And vice versa. If I do a Soul Shield here, the stacks will carry over here because I have it on both sides. So wherever the counter will be active, wherever its conditions are met. So that's why I have the breaker 600, and that's why you see 1, 2, 3, and then you see the little Bahamut symbol next to it, 5,
All right.
and then now say I do a regular soul shield, 6, see? But basically that's how that works. So if you're, it's hard to fit another 600% affinity in here without taking something away, but it can be done if you have the max weapon, because if you have, you know, like how I have Cyclic and Summoner here, then Cyclic and Summoner here, and then, you know, the Void Knight 600 is for the haste, but if you could drop that, or if you don't need the Inky Envy, you could put Lionheart here. It's a couple ways you can set it up for if you want to take advantage of those 600% affinities and that stack and stat buff that they offer. All right. And then the next component would be the Swordsman 400%. Great Sword Master enables the use of all weapon abilities for the Great Sword and increases damage dealt with Great Sword combos. So all the what the 400% of each basic job does is give you access to all the combos that only come on weapons, and you can put them in any slots you want, including the basic job actions are now part of that. Once you, I think once you get to a certain point in the rift, they become a part of that. Once you unlock the 600% affinities and the new combos and such. Alright. The next component would be Knight 400%, Invincible. Grants immunity to enemy attacks while Lightbringer is active. Now, basically what this does, obviously, is basic so I don't take damage while Lightbringer is active. That's why I have my sub job set up for cheap and long Lightbringers, because your Lightbringer duration is essentially a health bar. So whenever you want to heal and you're getting hit, you want to switch back to your sub and activate Lightbringer again. The cheaper you can get that cost, the easier it will be for you to stay alive. You still have to, you know, it's still hard, you know, you can't be getting pieced up by Gilgamesh or, you know, standing in Doomsday, things like that. You know, you still gotta play smart, but it gives you a pretty good buffer. If your duration is short, that means it's going to be easier for them to knock you out of Lightbringer. So you want your sub with as much duration as you can, because that's essentially a health bar. And the next piece of this is Monk 400. Now, I used to have Monk 600, Deals additional non-elemental damage based on your max HP, but I swapped that for the Breaker 600 and just dropped it to 400. Greatly increases max HP. You see how much HP I'm getting? Well, that's from all the affinities, but it increases your max HP by about 30 or 33%, something like that. And that's good for Dark Knight because Soul Eater is HP and intellect based damage. So the higher your max HP and the more intellect, the more Soul Eater damage you will do. Also, Paladin's Holy Fang works the same way, but without intellect. It's just based on your max HP. So the more max HP you have, the more damage you have. That's also why I have this accessory, the Muscle Belt. What does the Muscle Belt do? It gives me Mantra. So now I'm stacking 2 Mantra effects on my character, which is giving me plus 60% max HP, plus 30%, plus 30%. If I was playing without the minus 50% max HP trial, like I said before, then I would have HP on all these pieces because I would be getting an additional 60% for each one that's spec. And then that would just like blow my Soul Eater damage out the roof. And that's the good thing about Dark Knight. The difference between it gets a lot of strength and all that, but it's one, I guess, defining trait about Soul Eater is Dark Knight does the highest damage in normal attacks in the game. Because even your normal, even you get a ton of strength, you get a ton of intellect, and your normal attacks have Soul Eater attached. So when you have a ton of intellect and a ton of max HP, your normal attacks get hit very hard. Very hard. And then the last component also with this build, the Monk 250% Vigor, increases the duration of all buffs activated by a successful parry. This works in concert with the SAM 600%. So every time I do a combo ability, it triggers a parry effect, like parry MP recovery, parry HP recovery, parry damage dealt. And then since I have Monk 250%, those effects are extended. That's why I was able to switch and then pop all my command abilities while my MP was still filling up. Because of SAM 600 and Monk 250. And then the last component being in Dragoon 400%. I have this on here for Sovereign of the Skies, increases attack speed while Lightbringer is active. Attack and your movement speed. Because, attack, faster you can attack, the faster you can kill something. And that's why I'm stacking that with Lunatic and Barrage. So that's the concept of this build and how I put it together. Of course, you could change things around. That's why I call it a concept, because you could change things around based on your personal preference. You can put different affinities in here, but it's still going to operate the same because the major component to it is the stats. That's where all your damage is coming from. Stats on your primary blessings, your gear, and your master points. Your affinities will boost your stats as well, but they're the icing on the cake as far as damage. They're mostly related to your function. They help with the damage a lot, but they set up your function and your survivability. And then for my sub job now, like I said, I have the Cyclic 600%, which gives me the Soul Shield effects on Lightbringer. The Summoner 600%, which increases the potency of your primary blessing. One of my primary blessings, if I didn't have the ring, my primary blessing would be Leviathan, which increases MP and max MP gain on Soul Shield and Soul Burst. So that effect is getting doubled by having Summoner 600%. Also, another important part of this is the Summoner 400%. A successful Soul Shield increases the duration of active buffs. Meaning, with all these things working together, Summoner 600, 400, and Cyclic 600, every time I activate Lightbringer, my buff duration gets extended. So that's why if you've seen any of my videos, I'm always spamming Lightbringer because I'm refreshing my buffs that way. Instead of casting them, manually and using MP, I can just see. That's because of Gambler that my MP filled back up. I have a lot of buff duration. You see him run down. You see it run down. Now when I hit Lightbringer, you see him go up. Now if I do it 5 times, see? And then it doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't cost me any max MP to refresh my buffs. So why pay for them when I could basically do it for free with Cyclic 600 and Summoner 600? You see how the concept is coming together, how these things start to tie into each other? With your build, it's basically all your components working in concert and in synergy in order to empower you. Go over the next thing is Void Knight 600. Now, important part of getting that cheap Lightbringer is this: Void Knight 400%. Greatly reduces the cost of command abilities. Lightbringer is a command ability. I think it's 50%. It's 50% reduction, which in this game is equal to 25% reduction. And then after you go over 100% in cost reductions, it's diminishing returns. So at 100%, skill or ability would cost 50% of its initial cost. At 200%, it would cost 33%. At 300%, it would cost 17%. You understand? So it's diminishing returns the higher you go. So you don't have to stack the cost reductions too high because you'll be losing out on damage. Then also what works with this, the Void Knight 50 and 120 increases MP limit, boosts MP limit by 11.3%. Meaning anytime you do an action that's supposed to increase your at max MP, this increases that. That's why I'm able to Lightbringer and not lose max MP, because I'm increasing my MP, the amount my max MP increases by as much as I can. And then also this 250 increases the potency of MP recovery effects. That helps as well. Oh, sorry. Next component will be the Knight 400, so I'm invincible when I'm casting my buffs, or if I gotta switch to my sub and activate Lightbringer again to, refresh, I don't get hit and die. Then White Mage, this is for the 120%, increases buff duration to 50, 120, increases your buff duration by, 20% or so, or 19%. And then the Gambler for these fixed dice restores a random amount of MP when performing a chain cancel. So that's why I'm able to chain cancel and then without losing, I can do an ability, chain cancel, and have my MP bar filled up. It's because of fixed dice. And that's all, and it's also based on your luck. That's why I'm stacking so much luck. And also, this isn't necessary, but I like it. Fortune's favorite occasionally nullifies damage when the enemy attack hits. Chance increases with the luck stat, meaning like sometimes, say you get smacked up and you're trying to recover and you're on your sub or whatever, you're trying to get your stuff together, and then they come at you and you're like, oh my God, I didn't die. It's because the Gambler 200 for 50%. If your luck is high enough, it'll randomly allow attacks just to pass right through. But it's random, so don't rely on it. You'll know. You know what I mean? I call it plot armor. It's a plot armor thing. Like, it's great in the moment, but you don't never know when it's going to happen. Now, when you look at my sub stats, now that I explained it, you see everything is improved effect analyzed, improved effect barrage, luck, Lightbringer duration, soul burst, MP recovery. You see soul burst, buff duration, Lightbringer duration. Lightbringer duration on every piece, the status ailment resistance, luck, and then either buff duration, soul shield, MP recovery, or soul burst, MP recovery. Of course, starting out new into the end game, you're not going to have these level of resources. This is basically to explain and show how everything supposed to come together and work in concert towards a singular goal. That's what a build in Stranger in Paradise consists of. Now, you can even take this a step further with your allies, which I do. Now, if I go over, you see I have Jed, he's playing Samurai, and I look at his summon blessings. He has a total of almost 6,000%. Split between Fenrir, he's about close to 3,900% Fenrir and close to 2,000% Odin. Being on Samurai, you get 7 points of agility and 6 points of strength for every 100% of Fenrir, and you get 7 points of strength and 6 points of agility for every 100% of Odin. Now he's saying, why does that matter for Jed? Why do you care? Because all my NPCs have this Liberator 600. Memories of a God Slayer. Increases party member stats by a certain percentage of your strength, agility, stamina, intellect, spirit, and luck. So basically what it does is it shares your stats with the rest of the party. So let me show you what that looks like. When you Now you see we all have that Liberator looking icon under our bars. That's the Liberator 600 buff. That means Jed and Sophia, because she has Liberator 600 too, are both sharing a portion of their stats with the whole party. This makes you incredibly stronger because it's all their stats. So not just the main stats you want, but also, if you want defensive stats, you'll get offensive stats too. If you want offensive stats, you'll get defensive stats too. Whatever they have, however you set them up. Now let me show you how I have my Jed set up and my Sophia. So knowing that he's going to share his stats with me, I want him to be on a job that's going to give me the best stats to use for my job. And being that I'm on Dark Knight and I'm doing physical damage, my main focus is strength. So that's why, even though they get a ton of agility, Dark Knight gets none, can't really make use of agility. But because Sam gets such good strength, that's why I carry Jed. And that's why I carry Sophia on Breaker. You see, she's got 871 strength. Breaker gets the most strength in the game. So if I'm on a physical build, I always have Sophia on Breaker because I know, she gets the most. She gets a ton of strength, and I don't know the exact percentage of how much Liberator shares. It's believed to be between 5 and 10%. So if you think combined, they have about 1,500 strength. That's between 75 and 150 points of strength that's getting passed on to me. It doesn't show up in your UI, but it's there because you can feel it if they die. Now you may say, Mock, my allies is always dying. So what's the point of Liberator 600 if they're always going to be dead? Well, that's the point of the rest of this because all their other affinities are based around keeping them alive so that they don't die. So we have the Monk 400 for the increased max HP. We have Dark Knight 400 so they can have access to near death effects, whether that be damage dealt or damage taken. In this case, damage taken. The Paladin 400%, which grants immunity to all status elements. The Knight 400% invincible, grants some immunity to damage attacks while Lightbringer is active. Now you may say, Mock, how does an NPC use that? Well, for them, Resonance is Lightbringer. So whatever affects you at, it's a tooltip during the loading screen that tells you that as well. It's not really hidden in the game. You just gotta read it a little bit. But whenever you activate Resonance, meaning you give them the command to
Time to
attack,
go wild, Jed. Whoa.
now they're
You're
in
finally
Lightbringer.
asking for
Now they're
help.
invincible. So I'll do it and then we'll see how it works. See, they take no damage. They'll still take break damage, but they won't take actual damage. See, now it's gone.
This one's got some teeth.
Now I have to wait. And you see her die. She pops. That's because of the Paladin 250, which refills your HP during Lightbringer. So even when they do take damage while Resonance is on cooldown, as long as they don't die, I could just hit Resonance and they'll heal their health back up without being able, while still being invincible. And that's basically how I keep them alive. I just keep Resonance on cooldown. So I have that, and then also the Berserker 250%, which works in concert with the Dark Knight 400, so they have constant protect and shell too. That's why they don't get one shot as easily during Resonance cooldown. They still get sometimes one shot, and for that, I have on their rings the Phoenix Blessing, which if you do enough damage, it builds up an auto raise. So since they're always attacking and they always have MP, usually, if I make it through, if they can make it through a phase or two without dying, they can do enough, they'll build up enough damage to res themselves if they get killed. And then as you see my Sophia, let me show you the gear. Now the job effects aren't important because they don't do real damage. They don't have mastery points. So they're never just going to do as much damage as you are. So that's not important. Are important are the stats. I put the stats that I want them to pass to me on there. Strength, intellect, agility. All offensive stats. Because that's what I'm using them for. If you want defensive stats, then you will put stamina and spirit, and then whatever else you would want. The HP and break does not transfer for Liberator 600. It's all strength, agility, stamina, intellect, spirit, and luck. See, Jed set up the same way. It's all strength, agility, and intellect. Now, it's not necessary, and if you play by yourself without the NPCs, don't worry about it. But it's just another component to an endgame build where you bring it all together in order to empower yourself. So as you see, I got everything working. Also, I got Inky Envy for debuffing enemies so they take more damage. But hopefully you can see the concept of everything coming together in order to give me the power I have. Now, you don't have to, play the game and have the same exact things that I have in order to achieve a ridiculous amount of power. No, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need all of everything that you're doing to be going in the same direction, to be working in the same sort of unity, and then you'll be able to do whatever it is that you're trying to do in this game. It doesn't matter. Whatever job you're trying to play, whatever kind of build you're trying to make, you can do it and it'll be successful as long as your build has synergy and unity in it. So hopefully that helps some people. And like I said, whatever questions, I'm gonna answer whatever questions anybody has. And I'll try to do some more of these, like explaining and breaking down some of these builds and concepts that go into the end game stuff. And then maybe hopefully, I get some editing in here so it's not like just me recording, talking to a PlayStation mic. But hopefully this helps somebody, and hopefully y'all have a great evening or day wherever you are, and keep chaosing. All right.